Welcome back. In this video, I'm going to be taking a look at that magic scene and some other special abilities that were shown off in the Starfield Direct deep dive. Also, towards the end, I have a little bit of a speculative piece about abilities. But before we get going, yes, I did change the logo on the channel. I actually meant to do that next week, but I did that a little premature, so I kind of wanted to give you guys a little bit of a heads up. That way you would know that it was changing, but let me know if you like it, and let's get on with it. So I, for one, don't really know if I'm going to care about the whole magic ability, but I have seen a lot of speculation for how we are going to access such abilities, whether it be through the story, through certain traits that we find on planets and moons, and exploring, and or potentially even side quests. So if I convince you here of what I got to show off, go ahead, bet a friend, and get some free loot. But also as a disclaimer, if I'm wrong, I will not pay off or compensate any such bets. So real quick, listen to one of the devs talk about a skill.
I like the Xenosociology skill because it lets you mind control aliens.
During this quick little short clip of Nadia talking about the Xenosociology skill, we can actually see quite a bit of information. And during the demonstration of actually interacting with the Thorn Mantis, we can see on the right side, we have 4 different choices pop up. We have Pacify, Flee, Frenzy, Control. Now what's really kind of interesting here is they are actually demoing off the Control one, but the other 3 can provide us a little bit more detail of where we are going to be getting and accessing certain abilities or skills and that kind of stuff. Now I'm going to really slowly play through when you first see these 4 choices, and they have a little bit of an animation to them, which those little animations are going to be important here coming up. But let's take a look at a freeze frame of the skill tree for when Nadia was talking about the Xenosociology skill. So we'll take those abilities one at a time and see if we can match those up in the skill tree. Now the second choice, Flee, we've actually seen demoed off as they were leveling up a skill called Intimidation. You actually see in the skill description that you can force your NPC targets to flee for a limited time until you get all the way down to rank 4, which then intimidated targets now flee for a substantial amount of time. So then let's look back at that selection of 4 different choices, and we can see we also have Pacify and Frenzy on this list at 1 and 3, but we haven't really seen those demoed and shown off before. But since they have that little bit of an icon next to them, that could help us identify potentially which skill these come from. So then let's look for 2 hands that are shaking. And really what we can see here is not too much of the obvious choices to kind of match up there. And then also Frenzy doesn't seem to be obvious to match up with anything either. But there's another part during the deep dive that they actually show off the entire skill tree, all 5 sections of it, as they're just scrolling through. And as we look a little bit closer, we can see that there is one skill in the second tier that lines up pretty well with 2 hands shaking. And as far as that Frenzy choice, what's actually kind of interesting is this animation changes quite a bit from where it starts out at to where it ends at. And the way it actually appears when it starts out is 2 people holding hands. So if we're looking back at the social skill tree, the only one that looks obvious is the one in the 3rd row that has 2 small people holding hands. Another thing about this image is it has a hand holding a match with a flame. So are we going to have the ability to make people spontaneously combust? And that 4th ability with the Thorn Mantis, Control, was actually kind of easy to find. It's in the 4th tier under the social tree. And if you're thinking, well, I thought Xenosociology gave us the ability to control. Well, I think Xenosociology is actually going to allow us to use our abilities on aliens, not just NPCs. So here's a real quick look at all 4 of these different social skills that were shown off with the Thorn Mantis between their base look and their end look, fully ranked up. So we can see that they do change quite a bit as these skills get leveled up. Now, another skill that was actually shown off in some pretty good detail from Dane Olds was Neuro Strikes.
I like maxing out my physical tree so I can get Neuro Strikes and just punch my way through combat. That one's a lot of fun.
Now, since we already know where the Neuro Strikes skill will be coming from under the physical skill tree, we can take a look at that skill from the starting base look of that skill and the end look of that skill as well. So you might be saying to yourself, yeah, Shadow, we get it. Where's the magic? Well, one thing I would actually like to point out is all of these different skills could be considered magical in their own way, right? Some special ability. And as we have seen some of these skills in the skill tree rank up, as you unlock level 4 on some of these skills, we have seen through some of these demonstrations that they can have quite strong effects. So this brings me to one barely shown off, hidden under the combat tech tree on the 4th tier. So let's enhance, and let's enhance one last time. And what we can see is a person appearing to reach out with his hand. Now let's take a look at what this skill picture looks like before it's been leveled up. And if we put these two pictures side by side, we can see it starts out as body armor and ends up as a person reaching out with their hand. And this is where I think that space magic scene that they demoed off towards the end of the deep dive will come from. And what I originally kind of thought this skill might do was this. Come on. Where you wind up catching a certain amount of damage and you wind up shooting it back. But as we can clearly see in the footage that they showed off in the deep dive, there is some gravitational effects going on with some of the debris kind of flying around, and also some of the NPCs also just kind of floating around. So what I think this skill is actually going to wind up being is levels 1 through 3, some kind of gradual increase of body armor, like 5% reduction of damage or 10% reduction of damage, up to 15 or 20%. And then rank 4 of the skill would be some kind of burst of energy once you kind of max out maybe a meter bar or something like that. Because as we look back at the 4 different choices on the Thorn Mantis, we can see that they are all at 100%. So there will be some kind of metering or leveling or getting energy some kind of way on these abilities. But that is where I do think the space magic skill will come from. I don't think it's going to be tied to the story or traits or any kind of side quests, but maybe there will be some kind of enhancements maybe tied to some of those side quests or traits or something like that. We'll just have to wait and see. But as for maybe a little bit of a speculative part of how a magic or skills system could possibly work, is we have some footage of some devs messing around with the game, playing the game. And if we take a closer look, we actually have 6 nodes here, with the top right being our skill tree, our bottom right being our inventory, the bottom node being our current quest or story mission, the bottom left is our ship information, the top left is our location information, and we have a node at the 12 o'clock position that we have not seen any information about. We've only have this image that has this 6th node. So I have 2 possible scenarios. One, this is an early version of the game where they hadn't quite removed that node yet. Or 2, the funner version, the speculative version, is this is where I think we will be combining certain skills to make special abilities. Now, a big reason why I kind of do think that has a lot to do with the supposed magic skill and how it goes from body armor to a force-like ability. Because if you were to combine maybe this skill along with Neuro Strikes, and you were to send out a pulse, but also Neuro Strikes combines with that, and you see gravitational effects along with everybody being stunned in the hallway, that is where I think we could see some really neat abilities in the game if we are able to combine certain skills and make certain abilities. So that is what I believe will be space magic in Starfield. Did I convince you? And let me know if you think I'll be correct. And my next video is going to focus on how to dock with ships. So I appreciate you stopping by. All right, take care.